like I said before the break, that we could just filter out this unique values from the list that we're going to generate with the choice list. But there's obviously another problem with our list. If we give some ridiculous numbers, well, they're going to stay there. So that's also something worth looking into. One could filter the list that whatever is bigger than what we want, it will just not print it. So for that, we can just iterate for number in choice list. So the idea is to get rid of any and all numbers that are bigger or smaller than what we want. So the thing is, one could take this choice list and try to make changes while iterating over the list, but from experience, it never ends well. So the idea is to make a new list. Instead of the choice list, let's call it the correct choice list. Let's just make it super long. We have as much space if we want. Obviously, naming it several lines might not be the smartest choice, but let's just stick with that. So we have this for loop for iterating over every single element from the choice list. So what we can do, make simple conditions. If number is greater than 9, we do nothing. Pass means basically doing nothing. In case when we define some function, but we have the idea that we got to name this function by a name something, but we have no clue what to put inside, then we can put pass. But obviously, in case of this, we can change the condition. Maybe that will be smarter. If the number is smaller than 9 and the number is greater than 0, in that case, what we do, we add that particle number to this corrected choice list. So this way, it should solve one of the problems, right? This print choice list, we don't have to print it here anymore. What we want to print in the end, outside of this loop, we want to print the correct choice list to see, did we manage to get rid of all these nonsensical values we don't want to have there? 4, 7, 9, and 11. Okay, as we see, I did put 9. There's no hail. It might be cold and dry, but there's no hail because of this condition. If number is smaller than 9, the problem is it was equal 9. So it's important to recall if it's smaller or equal 9, then it is going to be remembered. And also the 0, I think we're safe because 0 is the exit character. So basically this condition stands for all numbers bigger than 1. So that should work. So if we try it again, 4, 7, 9, 1, something. Now we did fix this loop. It's nice to check the conditions and figure out that even though I typed 9, there was some issues. So it's good to be conscious of it, because when you write a lot of code, you will make some little typos. Obviously, it might be obvious for many, well, maybe not most, that this is the right way to write it. But when one writes all day long lots of this code, then it's just better to run this code and see if it works as we want it. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What are we doing in line 18? Print out outside while loop.
Okay. Yeah, this line was for all the operations we did inside this loop. I put this message there, so we know that we already ended outside the while loop. The while loop has got this one tabulator, and it ends. This is the last line of the while loop. So this first message that is printed with no tabulator here, that means this is already outside the while loop. It's, well, I thought it might be helpful. Like when we type something and we put a 0, the first thing that is being printed is here outside the while loop. Obviously, we're going to change this to some message, like your choices were this, that, and that.
Okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
for now,
Okay.
For now, the correct choice list, we managed to filter out the numbers we don't care about. One could filter those numbers earlier around the input, and instead of adding a wrong choice, one can add just only the right numbers to the list. That's probably even better. But this way it also works. As long as we practice some code, it's fine. But yeah, this way it just has to iterate over the whole list again. But if we made a comparison here, we would save this whole loop over here. Simple if else, and then append or no append might be the smarter choice. But for so small lists that we're doing, it's not a big difference for now. Yeah, but as I said, there's many ways of fixing anything you guys want. So we got this correct choice list. Yeah, we could have saved also on the variable. We wouldn't need that one. We just have the choice list and that would be it. But let's just continue with what we have. So the idea would be we have different numbers indicating basically the not exact index, but the number of the word in this weather array. As we can see, cloudy is 1. But if we refer to the array, then this cloudy is index 0. When we refer to any element inside the weather, we probably use index. So if we want, we already have this array of different choice lists, as many as there are. So what we could do now?
So can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
For me, it gives me two times feedback. So if I like type in numbers, it gives me one line where I type in all the wrong, also the ones that are outside the defined space between 9 and 0. And then it makes another line where it then only gives me the ones that are within the defined space. Do you know why that happens?
No. Maybe can you share the screen?
Sure.
It's worth checking it. Go ahead.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen.
So I have here, I typed those in, and only 1 and 2 is within the defined between 6 and 0.
Yeah, well, you put a 6 there, right? If the number is smaller or equals 6, and the number is greater than 0, that limits to the choice of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
But why does it give me Why does it give me this one, 7, 8, 9? That shouldn't show, right? Those shouldn't show. It should only show
Actually,
1, 2.
on line 23, you did print them. Print choice list.
Oh,
And that's what
okay. So
printed it. If you comment it out, just put a hashtag in front. Yeah, this way you comment it out, and if you run it again, it will just show the correct choices between, well, 1 and 6.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, great. Now, back to my screen. So I made a new loop to be able to print the choices that we had, because the correct choice list is going to be an array of, well, several items, right? So for an item in correct choice list, the VS Code and most of these advanced editors give you hints about what can be used. So as long as the variable has got some kind of unique first 3 letters, it will give you the hint what you're looking for. So for an item, if we print the item, well, that gives us something. 1, 2, and 3. Well, it's almost what we want, but not really. So it refers this item. It refers to the choices I made, 1, 2, and 3. But now the question is, what's the type of this thing that got printed? 1, 2, 3. And as you can see, thankfully, it is class integer, as it should be, because over here, we did convert it all. So that's good. We're dealing with numbers. So as long as we're dealing with numbers, we can try to call the particular, this list we created at first, and call this index. But I put, when you see here that number 1 is cloudy, that was the choice from the keyboard, but the problem is cloudy's index is actually 0. So obviously we have to do this operation, item -1. So if I run the program again, and let's say it's cloudy, cold, and it's, let's say, snowing. And it did print that out. So that's, well, somewhat useful. I could have we made it better? Probably yes. There's another way of doing things. Instead of remembering indexes, the correct choice lists, instead of that, we can actually directly at this point, instead of imputing a number, we can input directly this the names from this main list, and this way sorry, we get to just print it this way, and we get the same thing, cloudy and windy. Okay, well, okay, it's appended on the list, and in this case, yeah, we list the number, the item, sorry. And now it should be good. 1 and 2, and cloudy, windy. So that gets us somewhere. The idea is we want to print everything in the same line. So instead of printing, we can make a new variable, like sentence is equal, that's the weather is going to be. And that's where we add things to the sentence. So instead of printing an item, we type sentence plus equal item. There is one issue here. If we do it this way, well, it's not gonna be looking very pretty, and we want to make it pretty, right? Sentence. Let's see what the sentence is going to be. 1, 2, 0. The weather is going to be cloudy, no spacebar, windy. We would expect, if there's 3 things, that then we would expect that we don't join all of the words with this and this and this. Instead, we would expect commas in between. And for the last word, we would expect an end character. So if we iterate this way, it might not be, well, the best way, but it's still workable because we have this magic comment called length. If we know the length of correct choice list, let's just put it here. If we know its length, then we can expect when it's going to end. So what we call it? Let's call it length list. The length of the list is equal this. And when we add to the sentence an item, here we would make an if-else statement to figure out how many more items are there on the list. Now some logic is required because obviously this is going to be like a number, like a 3 or 2 or 1. So if length list is equal, because what I'm expecting that after this checkup of if else, let's just call it 1 for now. I'm going to type something here, else I'm going to put something here, and at the end I'm going to reduce this list by 1. Thanks to that, each time like I'm removing another word that I already used over here. Well, I called it item, but maybe word would be more smarter. So each word I'm using, I'm shortening this list, and when the list is proper size 1, then it is going to, for example, sentence plus equal and. Otherwise, what it's going to do? Sentence plus equal comma and spacebar. Let's see if this works. I have my doubts. I didn't check it much. So it's going to be sunny and warm and dry and hail, of course. Okay, it's almost perfect, but obviously we did oversee something. The weather is going to be sunny, warm, dry, hail, and so that's the problem, that when the length list is 2, that's when we need to put the end. Then thankfully, hopefully the end will be just before the end, but there is another problem. If the length list is equal 1, then, well, it's just gonna put a comma there according to this. That's why we put an elif. If it's 1, we know it's the last sentence, the last thing, and we can put a dot there. Dot, and see how that works. But you know, we assume that we are nice and we put everything as it should be done, like we put something only once, the weather is going to be sunny, cold, warm, and humid. That's great. But now let's check this application again. It's going to be warm, warm, warm. And there we have it. It's warm, warm, and warm. It's not much of a description of the weather. So the best choice would be to cut down this list at this point, or there is another way, because a list of tuples, if we remember, it doesn't have same values, meaning you cannot have 3 5s in the list of tuples. Or we can go another way, like Python, and we type the problem we have. Let's check first the one way, convert this to tuple. I mean, I would put equal sign, but let's see if it works. Return tuple list. So it's just command tuple list. So if we try that, let's see if it works. And that's the problem. The program is getting longer and longer. And that's why it's good to have, explanations here and there. I didn't put much here explanations. Not enough space bars, not enough spaces. Now with more space, it's a bit more readable to get this and that. So this is the correct choice list. Where do we have it? Yeah, this is the correct choice list. 3 times warm, is it? There it is. Correct choice list is probably this. The problem is I also didn't write any correct choice list. I didn't write this way, so that's why I might have gotten a bit lost. Yes, warm, warm, and cold. It puts non-unique values, but if we actually convert it to tuple, how would that work? There it is. Correct choice list, append, and now what we can do, correct choice list, and we convert it to tuple. And let's see. 5, 4. Okay, it did not work. But there's no problem. Another approach. So Python, remove non-unique values from list, duplicates. And there we have many solutions for different things. I'll zoom on that. So there is a comment where you use set and it's supposed to remove duplicates. Let's check if it works as it does. W3 schools set Python. So set is one of 4 billion data types used to store collections of data or with different qualities and usage. Set is a collection of unordered, unchangeable, non-indexed. So basically, if we change it to a set, it should work. Let's try that. Okay, the problem here was that I did that, but I did not do this. Maybe now it works. Sorry. Okay. I guess not. Correct. Choice list set. And there we have it. When converting it to set, we get easily remove the non-unique values, and we are left with just warm and cold. Obviously, we didn't have sets yet. It's well, if one follows this Asabenic's 30 days of Python, it's on day 7. We did skip like this tuple sets. I thought them not that important to know, but when we need to remove some non-unique values, it seems converting something to a set is just works perfectly. So why not? And this way, we got beautiful weather forecast. The weather is going to be warm and cold. Well, that's kind of strange weather forecast, but what can you do? Different types of weathers everywhere. The problem might occur when there is just only one, but there is no problem. The weather is going to be cold. Obviously, there's more fixing to be done. Like one could change the code in many ways to, well, make it more interactive. What could add also is if one choice was already chosen, one could add, for example, a star in front. Well, that might be something interesting. Obviously, over here, this comment would have to be changed, and we would have to add some kind of elements, and it would be dependent if it was chosen or not. This choice list, I mean, inside the loop, we'd have to maneuver around the stuff, but one would have to change the code a bit to make it more simple, because this way we are clearing out this list of non-useful stuff. We're having it over here, but obviously if we change it and add it here, I'll just redo the code. So I cut it from here, I paste it here. This way it will be a bit better. And it's the choice. This way we're gonna make a bit better list. And instead of this, we just type choice. We shortened the code a bit. And choice list append choice. This way, in our choice list, we're gonna have all we need. So this we can remove, and the correct choice list becomes choice list. And let's see if it works. It should. That's right, 55540. And it does not work, line 32. Sentence plus word. Word in choice list. Okay. Choice, okay, the choice list is having values 5, 4, warm and cold. Why did it ever have a 5 in there? Oh, okay. That's the problem. We appended twice the list. I should remove this. No, it should work. Okay. The problem is fixing the code, changing it a bit. It requires some practice. I did it a bit too fast. I hope you guys are not mad at me because of that. But thanks to that, we simplified the code a bit, and we get the choice list already over here. And the only problem is that we convert it to a set outside the loop. So I think if one worked more on the code, then one would be able to achieve this putting a star or a star behind, for starters, on these choices that were already made. And also one could add some logic over here in this while loop for not being able to pick the choices that were already chosen. But I guess it all depends what's easier for us now. Later on, it will be about performance. We want to do the least amount of loops as possible. Like there are some solutions that require 2 nested loops in each other. But there is a way to, for example, do something in just one loop. And it's just all about writing the code and checking internet for different type of results, because quite often one little line of code can be like harder for the processor than several lines of code, because that also depends on the libraries we're going to use. If we use a library for calculating several arrays that are many dimensional, then obviously it is going to take quite a toll on this computational powers of the computers. And just because there's more code, it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that it's written worse than someone solving the same thing in one line of code. Anyway, since we're solving so simple things for now, simple from the perspective that we don't have, well, we do have one nested loop, I admit. Like in the while loop, we have this for loop. So that's one example of a nested loop. It's going to, but it's quite simple because it's just, it prints the menu for us. And we got this by the process of following these tasks. And yeah, this might have been a bit confusing for you guys, but what it does, it just lists the whole menu. That's basically the point of this whole loop. And this one, the while loop, is basically gathering input from the user. So when we launch the application again, all of this is inside this for loop. It's listing the menu for us. Then we choose something, and the while loop repeats itself now. And again, this for loop just listed the whole menu for us again. And this doesn't look that nice.